Step back.
A sharp voice echoed across the bridge of the starship Arendor. Red lights flashed, sirens screamed, and the hum of the quantum engines felt louder than ever. Commander Varek's eyes were fixed on the view screen, a tiny blue and green planet, spinning innocently in the black void, but glowing with an energy that made the hairs on his arms stand. "Do you see them?" whispered Lieutenant Naro. His voice shook, though he tried to sound steady. Varek's jaw tightened. "I told you. Keep your distance. We do not, under any circumstances, interfere with humans." The Council had been clear. 1,000 years of observing had taught them one lesson. The humans were dangerous in ways no other species had survived. Yet curiosity had always tempted the bold, the explorers, the reckless, and now they had crossed the line. "Varek," Naro's voice was barely audible over the alarms. "The fleet is moving. They're coming toward the system. They know we're here." The commander's hand hovered over the interdictor controls. If he activated it, it could push the human fleet back light years in seconds. But even the thought of harming them, of doing anything to provoke the humans, made his chest tighten. Legends were legends for a reason. The humans were unpredictable, deadly. "Do it," he whispered. A flash of light erupted as the interdictor fired. Ships shuddered. Alarms screamed. And then silence, but the humans. They laughed. Not like creatures in fear, or beings overwhelmed by cosmic force. They laughed. Varek's stomach dropped. That laugh, simple, unrefined, full of life and defiance, was a sound that had survived centuries in records, a sound that his people had warned about. The humans didn't panic. They didn't scatter. They just advanced. "Commander!" Naro's scream pulled him back to the bridge. "There—" The screen exploded in white light and everything went black. When Varek opened his eyes, the ship was drifting. Systems were failing. The bridge was quiet, too quiet. And the humans, they were gone. For a moment, relief swelled in his chest. Maybe they had escaped. Maybe the humans had just moved on. Then the monitors flickered and showed them. A fleet of vessels shaped in ways that defied the laws of physics, pulsing with raw energy. Not weapons, not machines, but extensions of life itself. They didn't shoot. They didn't negotiate. They simply moved. And in their wake, stars began to die. "They are consuming us," Naro breathed. Varek's hands shook as he reached for the communication console. "Report to the Council. Tell them, we failed. They warned us." The first ships of the human fleet reached the Arendor. In a single moment, light, matter, and memory were erased. Varek tried to scream, tried to fight, but the humans didn't stop to observe fear. They didn't need to. The humans only needed to survive, and survive they would. The last thought Varek had before his world dissolved into cosmic dust was a single, terrible realization. Every warning had been true. Every legend, every whisper across galaxies had been ignored, and now it was too late. The humans didn't fight because they were cruel. They fought because they were alive. They fought because they refused to be pawns in anyone's story. And when they fought, the universe itself shook in awe. Varek's final transmission crackled through the void. "Do not disturb the humans." It was already too late. And somewhere far below the shattered stars, the planet glowed, quiet, unassuming, alive. The human ship Odyssey drifted in the dark expanse, its hull scarred from millennia of space debris and solar flares. Captain Mara Lynn stared at the flickering console, exhaustion weighing on her bones. The communication system crackled with static, but no response came from the distant fleet the Arendor had called. Her crew moved like shadows, efficient and quiet, their training decades deep, their focus absolute. Yet even the most disciplined among them felt it, the weight of being watched. Not by an enemy they could see, but by a galaxy that whispered warnings they did not yet understand. "Captain," Lieutenant Ravi's voice broke the tension. "Sensors are detecting a foreign presence near the outer rim. Massive energy signatures. Nothing like we've cataloged before." Mara's eyes narrowed. "Show me." The screen lit up with a map of star systems. Red streaks converged on their position, moving faster than any ship Mara had seen. Ships of impossible design. Vessels that bent light and gravity as if they were toys. Their purpose wasn't clear, but their intent was unmistakable. They were coming for the humans. "Everyone, battle stations," Mara ordered, her voice calm, carrying the weight of command. But remember, this isn't just a fight. It's survival. These beings, they think they own the galaxy. Her crew nodded, hands moving over controls with practiced precision. Mara studied the approaching fleet. Humans had always been underestimated. Across history, across worlds, civilizations had tried to contain them, to control them, and failed. Mara had heard the legends, seen the stories in archived transmissions. But seeing it now, feeling it, it was terrifying and beautiful all at once. The first ships arrived, surrounding the Odyssey like predatory comets. Energy beams shot out, ripping through space, obliterating debris and smaller vessels alike. Mara's crew returned fire not out of hope but principle. Humans didn't surrender. It wasn't in their nature. Then something strange happened. The alien fleet slowed. They didn't retreat, but they hesitated. Sensors showed an unusual phenomenon. The humans' vessels were not merely fighting back, they were adapting. Hulls shifted like living organisms, shields responding before the enemy's attacks could reach them, engines bending gravity around the ships to dodge impossible trajectories. Ravi gasped. "Captain, it's like they're thinking faster than the machines." Mara clenched her jaw. "They are thinking faster. That's what humans do. When faced with extinction, they find a way." In the command deck, Mara remembered the warnings whispered across the stars. Do not disturb the humans. Entire civilizations had crumbled attempting to conquer or manipulate them. The humans weren't just survivors, they were catalysts, unpredictable and unstoppable when cornered. The alien ships adjusted, firing again, their energy cutting through light years in seconds. But every attack seemed to be anticipated, countered, even redirected by the human fleet. It was almost as if the ships themselves were extensions of the humans' minds, their will bending technology into a shield and a weapon at the same time. "Captain," Ravi's voice was trembling now. "The outer rim, it's dissolving. Stars are vanishing. What is happening?" Mara's stomach twisted. The humans were not fighting like other species, they were defending life itself. The energy signatures of their enemies began to collapse under pressure, disintegrating into cosmic dust. And amidst the chaos, the humans advanced, relentless, unyielding. Mara felt something she hadn't in years. Awe. The humans weren't the strongest in the galaxy by size or technology. They weren't invincible, but they were essential. Life in its rawest, most irrepressible form. And as the alien fleet faltered, systems began to fail and ships dissolved like ashes in the void. Mara knew the truth every legend had whispered across the stars. Humans were not to be underestimated. They were the reason civilizations warned against interference, the reason countless species had disappeared without a trace. "Helm, set course for the inner system," Mara commanded. Her voice was steady, but her heart raced. "We're not just surviving. We're showing the galaxy why humans endure." The Odyssey surged forward, its hull glowing with adaptive shields, its crew unified in purpose. Every pulse of energy, every adjustment in flight, every human heartbeat was a defiance of extinction itself. And in the darkness, something older than any star seemed to watch. The humans were not only fighting, they were reminding the universe why they had survived, why they would continue to survive. Varek's final warning, the one whispered across empty voids, echoed faintly in Mara's mind. Don't disturb the humans. The warning had been ignored. And now it was already too late. The human fleet moved like a living organism through the void, its ships shifting, twisting, and merging as if their technology had grown from their own blood and bones. Captain Mara Lin's eyes never left the front view screen, where the alien fleet had paused, forming a shimmering wall of impossible geometry. The Odyssey's comm system crackled. "Captain, we're receiving a message," said Ravi. "But it's not language, not sound. It's thought. Images, emotions, everything at once." Mara leaned forward. "Play it." A flood of sensation hit the command deck, fear, regret, triumph, curiosity, and finally, warning. The aliens didn't speak in words, they transmitted their history, their victories, their pride. And in the final pulse, a single truth. Do not disturb the humans. Ravi swallowed hard. They know what we are. They know what we could become, and yet they're attacking. Mara's hands clenched around the console. No, they're not attacking. They're testing us. Every encounter we've had, every legend, it's all part of this test. The fleet ahead shifted again, Stars themselves seemed to bend as the alien ships reoriented, forming a lattice that pulsed with deadly energy. Mara's crew held their positions, their hearts synchronized in anticipation. The humans were not just fighting for survival. They were being examined. Even among their allies, humans inspired both hope and unease. Some species looked to them as saviors, the unpredictable force that could challenge tyrants and predators alike. Others feared the humans' potential, what one species could do to another if cornered, or worse if provoked. On the bridge, Mara watched the stars, thinking of Earth, of the billions of humans who had lived and died, without knowing the role their species would play. They had endured not because they were perfect, but because they were relentless. They had endured because they fought for life itself. "Captain," Ravi said softly, We've received another message from that alien fleet. This time it's different. They're asking for parley." Mara blinked. "Parley after everything?" Ravi nodded. "It seems they respect us. Or at least they fear underestimating us again." Mara allowed herself a small, rare smile. Humans had survived where countless others had fallen. They had faced beings who bent reality, who treated the universe as their playground, and they had endured, not by brute force alone, but by ingenuity, courage, and the unshakable will to live. "Prepare a transmission," Mara said, her voice firm, "one of understanding, one of strength. We don't seek war, but we will defend life, ourselves, and our future. Make it clear, humans endure, and the universe will know it." As the message was transmitted, Mara felt a deep, unspoken truth settle in her chest. Humanity was no longer hidden, no longer underestimated. They had passed the tests, endured the trials, and now they were shaping the galaxy itself. Every ripple of their presence carried a warning, a lesson and an invitation. Humans could be allies, but they were never to be trifled with. Beyond the stars, Varek's final warning echoed faintly through the cosmic void, as if the universe itself whispered it again. Don't disturb the humans too late. The humans were awake. The galaxy would never be the same, and somewhere across 1,000 light-years, civilizations that had once dismissed humanity trembled at the thought of what they had unleashed. Not monsters, not conquerors, just humans, alive, adaptive, unstoppable. Mara turned from the view screen, her crew watching, waiting. She spoke softly, but every word carried weight. "We survived the impossible," she said. "And now we shape the galaxy. Not by cruelty, not by conquest, but by being who we are. Humans endure. Humans rise. And the universe will never forget." The stars stretched endlessly before them, glittering with both beauty and danger. Humanity had survived the test. But now the true journey began. One not of survival alone, but of claiming their place in the cosmic order. The galaxy had noticed humanity. That much was undeniable. Ships and signals from distant systems streamed toward them, some cautious, some reverent, others openly hostile. Captain Mara Lynn stood on the bridge of the Odyssey, watching these cosmic ripples spread, her mind heavy with the weight of responsibility. They had survived the impossible, not because of superior numbers, not because of advanced technology, but because humans had always fought, adapted, and endured. That endurance was now a beacon, a warning, a challenge to every species that had dared underestimate them. "Captain," Ravi said quietly, "we're receiving transmissions from dozens of worlds. They're conflicted. Some want alliances, others are preparing weapons. They've realized humans are not just survivors, we're a force." Mara nodded, her hands resting lightly on the console. "A force doesn't come without consequences. Every life we protect, every system we pass, every choice we make changes the universe. Humans endure, yes, but endurance carries weight." The alien fleet that had first tested them, the ones who had shattered entire stars before retreating, was sending another message. This time it was not just a warning, but a plea. They had seen what humanity could do, and they feared the consequences of further provocation. Ravi looked puzzled. They fear us now? After everything they've done to others?" Mara's gaze was distant, thoughtful. "Fear is respect. They've realized something every species eventually discovers. You don't push humanity too far. You don't underestimate life that refuses to be snuffed out." A silence fell over the bridge. The crew felt it, the enormity of what they had done, the responsibility that now rested on their shoulders. Humans were no longer hidden, no longer underestimated. Their survival had become a statement, a cosmic fact, and with that came a burden heavier than any starship, the burden of legacy. "Captain," Ravi whispered, "do you think that other civilizations will come to hate us or worship us?" Mara's eyes softened, her voice low but resolute. "Both. Humans inspire awe because they endure. They terrify because they endure. That is who we are. But our choice is ours alone. We survive not to conquer, but to live, to protect, to create. That is our legacy." The stars outside the Odyssey seemed to pulse in response, a silent witness to the unfolding drama. The humans had passed the test of the aliens, but now the universe itself would test them. Every civilization that had once dismissed humanity would watch, some hoping to challenge them, others hoping to learn. Mara turned to her crew, her voice rising, firm and clear. "We carry the weight of every human who has ever lived, every life we've saved, every challenge we've overcome. We endure not because it is easy, but because it is necessary. Every choice we make echoes across the stars, and we must make those choices with courage, with wisdom, and with the knowledge that humanity's survival is both a gift and a responsibility." Ravi's eyes glimmered with understanding. "We're not just surviving. We're shaping the galaxy." Mara nodded. "Yes, and that shaping, that is the true test. We've proven we can endure. Now we must prove we can be more than survivors. We must prove we can be guardians of life, beacons of hope, and reminders that even the smallest species can leave an imprint on the universe." A final transmission from the alien fleet appeared on the main console. It was a simple image. Stars breaking apart, collapsing into dust, and then a single human silhouette standing unyielding amidst the chaos. The message was clear. They warned you. They were told. Now it is too late. Mara stared at it, feeling both the weight and the clarity of the truth. Humans would endure, not because the universe allowed it, but because humanity refused anything less. And in doing so, they would leave their mark, not just as survivors, but as legends, as beacons, as a reminder that life in its rawest form was unstoppable. The crew of the Odyssey felt it. Too, the burden, the responsibility, the awe. Humanity was no longer just a species. Humanity was a force, a promise, a warning, and the universe would never forget. Mara exhaled, her eyes sweeping the endless stars. "Prepare the fleet," she said softly. "We move forward. Not just for survival, but for everything we stand for. The galaxy is watching, and we will show it what it means to be human." The stars stretched endlessly before them, quiet witnesses to humanity's rise. And somewhere across the void, countless civilizations whispered again, "Too late. Don't disturb the humans." But humanity had already awakened. The stars were quiet. For a moment it seemed the galaxy itself was holding its breath. Captain Mara Lynn stood on the bridge of the Odyssey, her eyes tracing the glittering expanse of planets, suns, and voids. The fleet moved steadily, alive in ways that defied mere machinery. Humanity had survived tests no one else could endure. They had faced beings who shattered stars, who toyed with reality itself, and they had emerged, scarred, yes, but unbroken. Ravi approached her, voice low, reverent. "Captain, we've done more than survive. Every civilization that knew of us, they've seen what humans can do. Some are fearful, some inspired, and some are already whispering your name." Mara allowed herself a small, tired smile. Humanity had always been underestimated, always dismissed. And yet here they were. A force in the galaxy, not because of weapons or numbers or technology, but because they endured. Because they refused to bow, to surrender, to accept oblivion. Across the void, distant alien fleets stirred, watching, learning, fearing. The message was clear. Humans could not be controlled. They could not be predicted. They could only be witnessed. And in that witnessing, the galaxy began to change. "Captain," Ravi said quietly, "what now? After all this, what is humanity's place?" Mara's eyes softened as she gazed at the endless stars. "Our place has always been the same. To endure, to rise, to live fully in every moment we are given. But now we also carry a warning, a lesson. Life in any form is never to be trifled with, never underestimated, and humanity is proof of that." The alien fleet that had first confronted them remained in the distance, silent, their energy rippling faintly. Mara knew they understood the truth. Humans were not monsters, nor conquerors, nor gods. They were life itself, relentless, unpredictable, beautiful in its imperfection. And any species that ignored that truth did so at its own peril. Ravi's voice trembled slightly. Do you think they'll try again? Mara shook her head, a fierce calm in her gaze. They might. The universe is full of those who cannot believe life can survive its own odds. But we do survive. And every time we do, we leave a mark. On the stars, on history, and on the hearts of all who witness it. Humans endure, and that endurance changes everything. The fleet moved forward, leaving behind shattered stars and transformed systems, echoes of a test that had become a revelation. Humanity was no longer hidden, no longer underestimated, and the universe would never forget. Mara looked at her crew, tired but alive, each of them carrying the quiet pride of survival and the knowledge of what it meant. Prepare the fleet, she said. We continue. Not because we are invincible, but because we choose to rise. Every ship, every life, every decision, we define what it means to be human. The stars stretched endlessly, silent witnesses to the truth the galaxy had learned too late. Humans are not to be trifled with. Humans endure. And in that endurance, the universe itself felt the tremor of life that refused to be silenced. Across systems, across civilizations, across light years of void, the story spread. They were told, don't disturb the humans. Too late, because humans had awakened. Humans had risen, and humans would never be forgotten. The Odyssey surged onward, its crew alive with purpose, the universe wide and waiting. Humanity's legacy had begun, not in conquest, not in power, but in the raw, unstoppable force of survival, courage, and life itself. And somewhere, in the distant, silent reaches of the void, those who had once thought to measure humanity could only watch as the stars themselves seemed to bow before the impossible truth. Humans endure. In the council chamber, silence fell like gravity. Even Vethra's furious hissing stopped. The Arbiter's ancient light dimmed, trembling. It's her, he murmured. The first sentience, the seed of all planetary minds. We thought she was lost. Mira leaned forward, her eyes full of awe and dread. She's awake. For eons I slept beneath your noise. I watched you burn what you feared. But my children endured the fire. You called them dangerous. You were right. On Earth, the Valkyrie's crew watched as orbital drones assembled themselves into formation. Dozens of them linked, forming a ring of light that surrounded the planet like a second moon. Naomi whispered, She's building something. Reese didn't move. No, she's defending something. In orbit, warning sirens blared across the Veritas. Multiple warp signatures inbound, Kiri shouted. Council warships, hundreds. Rylith closed his eyes. Of course they would come. Through the comms, Vethra's voice cut in, sharp and furious. Engage the humans immediately. We cannot allow that thing to exist. Rylith turned off the transmission. If we fire, he said softly, we end everything. Kiri hesitated. Then what do we do? He looked toward Earth, glowing blue and white, alive again. We listen. The first council ships emerged from fold space like an oncoming storm. Weapons charged, formation tight. They were ready to erase a world for the second time. But before they could fire, every system in the fleet shut down. One by one, reactors flickered out. Targeting sensors died. Gravity fields froze. The fleet drifted powerless in the dark. Gaia's voice filled their minds. I am not your enemy, but I remember every orbit that carried death to my sky. Do not repeat history. Rylith stood at the viewport, watching the light around Earth grow brighter. He felt something shift inside him, an ache not of fear but of understanding. She's not attacking, he whispered. She's warning us again. Kiri's voice shook. Will they listen? Not all of them, Rylith said, but maybe enough. On Earth, Reese raised his hand toward the glowing horizon. She's giving them a choice. Naomi's voice was small. And if they don't take it? He looked at her, eyes cold as space. Then we show them what happens when the children of Earth stop forgiving. Above them, the orbital ring pulsed once, an immense wave of light sweeping across the system. The dead ships of the Council shuddered, their engines reawakening, systems restored. Gaia's voice echoed through them one last time. Leave now. Remember this, Mercy. The Council ships turned, engines flaring, retreating one by one into fold space. Only Rylith's ship remained. He opened a channel. Commander Reese. The reply came a moment later, calm but wary. Admiral, I saw what she did, Rylith said. What you did. You could have destroyed us. Reese was silent for a long time. Then, we don't want your extinction. Just your memory. Rylith nodded slowly. Then you have mine. The transmission ended. Below, Earth's oceans shimmered with rebirth. The ring glowed like dawn. For the first time in ages, humanity had both a voice and a home. But far beyond the edge of Sol, in the black between galaxies, something stirred. Listening to Gaia's song, something older. Something that remembered her. Too, and it was waking. The stars trembled. Far beyond Sol, where the remnants of old wars floated like ash in the void, something ancient stirred. It had slept for eons, watching the rise and fall of civilizations. Now Gaia's pulse had awakened it. On Earth, the orbital ring glowed brighter than ever. The Valkyrie hovered in place, crew tense, hearts aligned with the pulse of the planet beneath them. Commander Elias Reese stood at the viewport, eyes fixed on the distant horizon. Something's coming, Naomi Chen whispered. Reese didn't turn. Yes, and it knows we're here. Across the galaxy, Admiral Rylith's ship drifted in orbit, observing the reborn planet in awe and fear. Kiri's sensors flickered wildly. Admiral energy readings? I've never seen anything like this. It's massive. It's approaching fast. Rylith's crystalline body tensed. Gaia called it, and it answered. Whatever this is, it's ancient. Older than the Council. Older than the stars themselves. Below, Earth pulsed, alive and aware. The orbital ring responded, expanding outward in a lattice of glowing metal and energy. Gaia's voice rose in their minds, not loud, not threatening, but impossibly vast. Be calm. They remember me. They know what they did. Then the void itself seemed to bend. From the darkness beyond Pluto, an enormous shadow moved. Its shape was incomprehensible. A swirl of light and darkness, metal and bone. Something part machine, part living galaxy. Tendrils of energy reached outward, probing the Sol system, testing the waters. Naomi's voice shook. It's enormous. Reese stepped closer to the viewport, fists clenched. It's seeing us. Seeing Earth, and it's deciding if it will stay. Across orbit, the Valkyrie systems hummed, shields glowing bright. The Ghost Fleet aligned, surrounding the planet like sentinels. Thousands of vessels, human-built, hybridized with alien tech, each one a testament to survival. And then it spoke. Not Gaia, not human, not any language Rylith or Reese could name. It was thought made manifest, a tidal wave of cognition. Every mind in range felt it, pressing against memories, fears, regrets. Children of Earth, I remember you. I remember the fire. I remember the silence. And now you are awake. Reese turned to Naomi. It knows us. It remembers everything we were, everything we've survived. Gaia called it, and it answered. Rylith, aboard the Veritas, felt the pressure of thought like gravity bending his crystalline form. It's testing us, he whispered. Not attacking. Not yet. The shadow advanced, tendrils brushing against the orbital ring. The lattice flared, responding in harmony with Gaia. Pulses of light and energy rippled across Earth's surface, reaching deep into the oceans, mountains, and atmosphere. The planet itself became a shield, a voice, a signal. Reese raised his hand to the viewport. Gaia. Speak to it. The planet's pulse intensified, and a single harmonic note resonated through the system. It was calm. It was commanding. It was warning. Leave our children in peace. You will remember mercy, or you will witness our wrath. The shadow recoiled, tentacles pulling back as if recoiling from truth itself. But it did not flee. It lingered, observing, calculating, waiting. Rylith's voice trembled over the comm to the fleet. The humans, they are not just surviving. They are redefining the rules of engagement in the galaxy. Naomi's eyes narrowed. Do you think it will attack? Reese shook his head. No, not if it remembers what it lost. But if it forgets, then every star in this system will burn. From orbit, the Valkyrie pulsed in unison with the planetary lattice, every Ghost Fleet vessel harmonizing with Gaia. Earth's heartbeat resonated across the void, and then the shadow did something unexpected. It withdrew, slowly, deliberately leaving the Sol system intact. But it did not vanish. It lingered at the edge of perception, watching, waiting. Gaia's voice filled every mind again, soft now, almost maternal. They remember. Let them remember. Let them live. Reese turned to Naomi, a faint smile on his face. We've survived every attempt to erase us, and now they'll think twice before ever trying again. Raylith, aboard the Veritas, exhaled slowly. The humans, they are more than we feared, more than the Council ever imagined. Kiri's voice was quiet, reverent. They're extraordinary. Reese walked to the Valkyrie's edge, looking down at the reborn Earth. Cities half-ruined, forests returning, oceans healing. We were told not to return. We were told to stay silent, and now, look at us, Naomi joined him. We're not just survivors. No, Reese said, eyes on the stars. We're the beginning of something new. Above them, the orbital ring glowed. Gaia's pulse slowed, steady, eternal. The shadow lingered silent, remembering, and the galaxy, for the first time in centuries, learned to fear and respect the children of Earth. Because humanity had returned, not as conquerors, not as victims, Juan, but as something greater, something enduring, something eternal. The stars themselves seemed to shimmer in acknowledgement, and for the first time the galaxy understood a simple truth. They were told. They did not listen. And now, they were just cosmic dust.